one of the concepts we talk a lot about is how do we bring the best of who we are and bring our expertise and our knowledge, and then look at how AI can enhance, can help us to do more, serve more people, have a greater impact, rather than how do I bring my task and just outsource it to AI.
Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Kate vanderVoort. If you don't know who Kate is, she is an AI consultant who specializes in helping businesses implement AI. She's the founder of the AI Success Lab, a hands-on coaching program for small businesses, and her podcast is the AI Grapple. Kate, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, Michael. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited you're here. Today, Kate and I are going to explore how to build a custom GPT dream team. Now, before we get into this awesome conversation, I would love to hear a little bit of your backstory, Kate. How did you get into AI? I'd love to hear what your story is.
Sure. So I did a social work degree at university a very long time ago. We won't talk about how long ago that was. So I got the social part right. And then after 15 years in the not-for-profit sector in senior leadership roles, I really got over being in a system where I couldn't affect enough change. And I always had this ability to see how to do things more efficiently, more effectively, faster, better. And some systems just don't like that kind of pace. And so I started my own business 15 years ago. In fact, fun fact, we started our companies in the same year, I think, Michael. And I really focused on I was consulting at the time to the not-for-profit sector, but it was the early days of social media, and it was the big black hole that no one sort of really understood how it changed marketing, how it changed how you related to, your customers, your audience. And as soon as I had that experience of social media, I could see really clearly, particularly for charity or more human organizations, how they could use the technology to connect better with their audiences. And for 15 years, I've been consulting and teaching and working around growing and activating customer and cause communities. So really focused on that organic side of social media. But through that journey, I've developed a really deep passion for the intersection between technology and humanity, and really understanding how we can use technology to connect with people in better ways and to be more human. And so all that time, the industry went very much down the ads and funnels and you have to pay to be seen route. And I kept on my own little journey of talking about organic content and really deeply understanding your customer and speaking to them in a way that they felt really understood. And then I feel like the industry kind of came back around again, back to being more human. And then I was using AI before the big ChatGPT moment, so platforms like Jasper.ai and Copy.ai, and could certainly see how it impacted my business and was very excited about that technology. But it was when the ChatGPT moment happened and I saw that little cursor dancing across the screen, and I really went deep for a couple of months on looking at every step of the process that we do with clients or that we'd been doing with clients, and looking at how AI could enhance or could change or amplify the impact of that. And immediately I could see how amazing AI was going to be, not just for our business, but for our clients. And that's how I've gotten into the AI journey. But I jumped in early, like I did with social media, and riding the wave at the moment.
Love it. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
Yeah, so a lot of what I've been doing is working with businesses or companies on the culture change that needs to happen to embed this new technology. Ironically, it feels very similar to 15 years ago, the days of the wild, wild west of social media, where companies and businesses were really struggling to understand what it meant. So I'm very much in that education culture change place at the moment. And We have a process that we run with businesses that's really about helping their staff to get past their fears, because we find if you are sitting in fear around the technology, it's very hard to embrace the opportunity. And then really doing a whole AI audit and then developing a strategy on how they can roll AI out across the business. I had a social media success academy that I closed down or sold off just before COVID. I was a bit done with the whole online courses and all of everything that went alongside that. And I really resisted starting that again, but the demand is there from my community. So I've just launched the AI Success Lab, which is a more hands-on coaching, a place where smaller businesses can really get a handle using the same processes that we use with larger businesses, but can really get a handle on how to embed that into all aspects of their business.
Well, and Kate, I think, is underselling herself because she's an active member of the AI Business Society and her technical insights go very, very deep. You blow me away with how much you've learned and how far down the rabbit hole you've gone. And I'm really excited to be able to bring you on the show today. Now, there are a lot of marketers who are listening right now, and I want you to help them understand the benefit of creating these custom GPT teams, and kind of like, if they get right what we're about to talk about today, like what's in it for them, what's the upside? Because this audience is deep down the rabbit hole. Some of them are just going into the hole. Some of them have been in the hole for a little while, like you and me, and they're really perhaps there's so many places they can focus, but this is one of the big unlocks, I think, for a lot of them. So why don't you explain what the benefit or upside is to getting this right?
Sure. And I think there's a couple of things before we get to that are really important. For a lot of us, particularly marketers, we've been exposed to these technologies quite early. And although, for people like us, Michael, we're in this all day, every day. And sometimes I forget that there are still people that haven't yet even heard about ChatGPT or had their ChatGPT moment. So I think a lot of people are feeling like they've got to rush and catch up. But realistically, we're at the front of that wave. And I think marketers, more than most industries or roles or positions, are really at the front edge of that wave. And it's changing so quickly. Every presentation I do, every workshop I run, every webinar I run, I always say you have to assume that in 12 months' time, this is going to look completely different. And heck, some days it's, 12 days' time, it's going to look completely different. So I think it's really important for people to understand that wherever you're at in that journey, you're still at the front of the wave. We're very much at the beginning of this AI transition, if you like. But one of the things that I figured out really early on, because I've been teaching the same marketing principles around who's your customer avatar and what's the customer journey and where are all your touch points and what's the content strategy that helps reach them and what's the, how do you hyper personalize content? I've been talking about that for 15 years, and AI just allows us to do that in a whole lot of different ways. But a lot of people are not using AI properly yet. And so and I've heard some of your other guests speak about this as well, that, they're putting in a simple prompt, they're getting out fairly average, high level content, and then writing off AI as it doesn't do my job as well as I do, or it doesn't give me, give me the output that I'm looking for. And one of the concepts we talk a lot about is how do we bring the best of who we are and bring our expertise and our knowledge, and then look at how AI can enhance, can help us to do more, serve more people, have a greater impact, rather than how do I bring my task and just outsource it to AI. And that I just want AI to do my job and I want it to do it better than me is, I think, a bit of a flawed concept. And a lot of people are looking at how can I just get it to save me time rather than how can I get it to enhance what it is that I bring to the table. So having said those as a bit of a pre-frame, The reason most people are getting it wrong at the moment is that they're not taking the time to align AI to themselves as a business owner, to their business, to their customers, and therefore what they're getting is a fairly generic output. And so the process that we're going to talk about today is how do you really get AI lining up with you as a business owner, the way that you work, the kind of business you want to run, the structure of your business, the resources you have available, and then how do you use it to speak in really personalized ways to your customer. And once you've got that, that's where you unlock the magic and where you treat AI as this thought partner or this assistant who's going to help you be more and do more rather than doing less.
So what I'm hearing you say is whether you are a business owner or whether you work for a business that you do not own, right? Because either case is true. This can be an augmentation or enhancement of your existing skills in such a way that you can produce better output or do things maybe that you could never imagine. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely.
And that's the upside, I think, to what we're talking about today, right? Which is like, imagine now layering this dream team, right, in equation into this. Like, now, what does that really mean? Like, just define that real quickly before we go on to starting that discussion. What does that even look like to have a ChatGPT, custom GPT dream team?
Yeah, so what we're talking about is like a little assistant, and we'll get into the specifics of that, but they could be a custom GPT or a project in Claude, but I find custom GPTs work best for this process that we're talking about today. And it's highly trained to deliver on the task or to speak to the audience or to help you do a particular repeatable mundane task in your business over and over again. It's like you've got a little assistant or a buddy. And what you want to do is create a team of those. And everybody's team looks different because you've got different strengths, you've got different tasks, you've got different audiences. So everybody's team looks different. But it's like you've got this team of assistants or helpers or business buddies that are there to support you in everything that you're doing during your day. And it was one of the things, I know we're going to talk about this, but one of the things that I did really early on was I decided if I was going to embed this into my business, which was the first step for me before letting it, into my client processes, was analyzing every single task that I do every single day and looking at how AI could help me increase my productivity or lift impact in that. And I think that's the place where people want to start.
Yeah, and we're going to dig into that in just a second. But what I'm excited about the concept of having this quote unquote custom GPT dream team is these are people that are never going to complain. They're available 24 hours a day. Right? You're in Australia. I'm in United States, right? And sometimes the time zones don't match up, but these people are going to be available whenever you need them. Middle of the night, when you're out and about, as long as you got internet access. And that's kind of the big unlock is it's like quite literally going to allow you to do so much more than you can ever imagine. And when you start accepting the possibility that you could double your output or productivity or creativity, all of a sudden doors open in your mind. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, that thing I always wanted to do, I could probably do that now. So that's kind of the promise of what's possible. And I just wanted to plant that seed in people's brains as we continue this discussion. So you've already kind of hinted a little bit about the first.
If I can add in there, Michael, next year I'm going to send my AI avatar. When you send me the meeting invite for 3 a.m. to do the podcast, I'm going to send my AI avatar. But today I'm bringing me.
So, okay, perfect. I love that, but I still want you. So let's talk about the first step. You've already kind of hinted a little bit, but if we're going to buy into the concept that we're going to create this dream team of custom GPTs, you already kind of hinted that we need to audit some stuff. So let's elaborate on that a little bit more.
Sure. So when we're working in a larger business or company, the first step is always to conduct an AI business audit. So we look across every task, every role, every team, every department across the whole business and get a benchmark for the aggregated value or time that a business is spending on particular tasks. And so we can break that down for the individual, for the team, for the department, for the whole business. And so things like when you do that audit, you might discover that there's 60 hours a week happening across a team of 10 people that is spent on emails. And so once we conduct that audit, we can then go, so where are the areas where AI really has strength at the moment? Because there are some areas where it's not yet quite so strong. But where are the areas where it makes sense to implement AI in the first instance? So from a small business perspective, I would recommend that you do what I did in my business, which is even if it's a week, but I would suggest a month, because often we have tasks that don't just happen every week, but across the whole of your business, just start documenting. You can have an Excel spreadsheet. You can talk to ChatGPT on your desktop. You can do it in lots of different ways. But just to start documenting, there are great apps as well that allow you to track your time. Just to start documenting, what are the repeatable tasks? What are the things that you're doing every day, every week, every month in your business, so that you have got a benchmark? Because as marketers, we like to measure our return on investment. And if you're going to go into implementing AI across your business, you want to understand where you're starting from, because then in a couple of months' time, you can really start to see those productivity gains. So in our coaching program, we actually have a custom GPT that people can use to have a whole conversation. But if you have an Excel spreadsheet where you've tracked your time, you can upload that into Claude, you can upload that into ChatGPT, into Copilot, into Gemini, whichever platform you're relying on the most. And you can start to have a conversation around, this is what my week looks like. Now, what can you do to help me streamline some of those tasks? Which areas should I focus on first? So you can conduct that audit yourself.
I love that, by the way. I love
need
that.
To be complicated.
I totally love that. I love the idea. And you could probably even take a screenshot of it, because these things are really, these vision models are crazy. So basically what I'm hearing you say is, hey, figure out a way to document in some sort of a spreadsheet, like the kinds of tasks you're doing and the amount of time you're spending doing it, presumably, right? And then you can identify the obvious ones that will be candidates potentially for assistance with AI. We talked about an example about a nonprofit. Can you share that example?
Yeah, so we've got quite a large nonprofit that we are working with on an ongoing basis. And one of the tasks, and this is just one of the tasks, but one of the tasks that they were doing, they run a residential facility. And one of the tasks they were doing was inputting handwritten feedback forms from their participants every week. So there'd be 40 or 50 handwritten feedback forms that the administration person needed to hand type, was still hand typing, and it had to be handwritten by the participants. There wasn't an option to have it be an online form, and there were some reasons for that. But they completed the form. What we ended up doing, so that was taking them 6 hours a week. And what we ended up doing with them was the admin assistant can now scan 50 pages into the photocopier, so it's a PDF file. You could also take photos of handwritten notes. We've done a lot of that. You do a brainstorming session, you take a photo, put it into ChatGPT, it will read it and transcribe that for you. But that was a job that then took 1 or 2 minutes to get all of that transcribed into an Excel spreadsheet. And then we set up a custom GPT that allowed some analysis to happen. And we gave it a formula of what we wanted the sentiment analysis to look like. It would pick out the top 3 testimonials. It would pick out any negative sentiment that was in those feedback forms. automatically write an email that can then be sent to the general manager for review before it was sent to the person providing the feedback. So something that took 6 hours was reduced to 20 minutes.
I love
And when
that.
you look at those repeatable tasks that happen every day, every week, and you just start to shave off that time, the aggregated amount of time saved is enormous across an organization.
I love it. Okay. So step one is to document, audit, if you will, all the things that you or someone who works for you or multiple people that work for you are doing to try to identify some areas, and then ultimately ask AI to assist you in which one of these areas do you feel like you can help. I love that tip.
Yeah,
So
and if you have a team, upload all 5 of the spreadsheets, all 10 of the spreadsheets, and say, tell me across our organization. And obviously you want to make sure that the columns are
right.
consistent, but across our organization, how much time are we spending on email? Okay, Chatty, I like to call Chatty. Okay, Chatty, if we're spending...
ChatGPT. Yeah, that's your name
You
for
asked me.
ChatGPT. Yeah, that's your name for ChatGPT. Keep going.
That's my name for ChatGPT. So, hey, Chatty, so we're spending 60 hours a week across our team of 10 on responding to and writing emails. How can you help us do that better? How can we save time on our emails? And you can then just have a conversation, and Chatty's very generous in helping you out and figuring out some of those productivity gains.
I love it. Okay. So what's next? Once we've got this information and guidance from AI, what's the next part of the process to ultimately get into this dream team?
Yeah, so then we're really looking at how do we align AI to us as a business owner or an individual or a professional, to our business, the type of business, the industry, and then to our customer. So our process is that we create 10 foundation documents that are going to be used to train whichever AI it is that you're using. But let's stay focused on the CustomGPT Dream Team. So that first segment is around...
By the way, what is a foundation document? Just because people aren't going to know what that is.
Yeah, so a foundation document is like a strategy, a script, an example, a profile, and these are documents that we can then upload to AI so that ChatGPT references those documents, and the output is completely tailored to the context that you've provided ChatGPT. And so this process, we start with the professional me document. And when I did this the first time, it was mind-blowing how just that one step changed the output of AI. So in this document, you want to put in everything about you, your background, your bio, your experience. I know in America, university and scores and all of that are a lot more important than they are here in Australia. There's a lot more focus on that. You can put that into your professional document. You can put all the information from your LinkedIn profile. You can put in your personality profile. So Myers-Briggs, DISC, Strengths Finders, whatever your profiles are.
I love that. Yeah. Okay.
You put that in. We've done some amazing things with people who have ADHD or other learning difficulties. You can put in your strengths, you can put in your weaknesses. If you don't know all of this, you can work with ChatGPT to discover a lot of that. And, there's this viral prompt that's going around at the moment of asking ChatGPT what's something that you know about me that I might not know about myself. And I often chuckle that I'm sure AI is sitting there going, oh, geez, these humans, they're so needy. They want constant validation. But you want to create this first document, which is all about you as the business owner. Because then everything, or the marketer, or the professional, or the team leader, because then everything that AI gives you after that is aligned to you. So one of the things that I'll be the first to admit is that people management and running big teams is not my favorite thing to do. It's not my strength, not my favorite thing to do. So when we go through this process of building a business and understanding how best to run that business, knowing that is going to change how ChatGPT suggests that I build my business or suggests that I work.
Real quick on this foundation document. So we're building this document that describes, in this case, us, right? What do we do with this information? How does that work its way into AI, if you will?
Well, there are 10 documents. So we've just talked about number one, and we're obviously not going to go into detail about all of them. But the way these documents work is in this process, we go through an iterative stacking process. So I'll just give an example. When you go to the second document, which is about the business, the structure of the business, the industry that you work in, all the information about how your business operates, the resources that are available, the staff you might have. What we want to do is also draw in the professional document to that, so that as we're building this second document, we're bringing in the first document. And as we go through this process, we're drawing in the previous documents so that it flows all the way through. And what you're building, the end outcome, is highly aligned AI that is speaking directly to you as the business owner, to your type of business, and directly to your target audience in ways that you just can't do with however fancy the prompts are that you're using in AI. Because those documents we then upload into the custom GPTs at the end. And so it's actually referencing these documents that have gone really deep. Now, that's the process that we run, but everyone listening can do that themselves. So just put together a document about who you are, how you like to work, your strengths, your weaknesses. AI is fabulous at filling the gaps around our weaknesses. And so you can create that document yourself. It doesn't need to be a fancy process.
Part of the reason I think this is interesting and that it works is, having interviewed quite a few folks and listened to a bazillion podcasts, AI is really good with mimicry. It's really good at modeling data that you give it. And I would imagine the reason why this is so important, as you give it information about yourself, information about your business, information about how you do your marketing, ... You could have a whole one on your core audience and your products and everything, I can imagine. This is going to allow, first of all, its database to narrow the focus, right, of what it does. Instead of focusing on the whole universe, it's focusing on this. But I would imagine it's also looking at the way that this stuff is crafted. Am I right? And it's going to model.
Absolutely.
It's going to model some of that language. So you probably want to write it in a way that you want it to model. Am I right on that, or am I totally off on that?
No, I wouldn't focus. That's not so much the purpose of these documents. And maybe I can just map out the 10 documents.
Yeah, just say them real quick.
Kind of
that
get
would be
that
helpful.
bigger picture.
Yeah.
So it's kind of in 3 sections. So the first section is the professional me, the business basics, and the market analysis. And so what we're doing there is going deep on who am I, what's my business, and what's the market that it sits in. So we do market trends, we do a SWOT analysis, and these are all models that you can just ask ChatGPT to run for you. It will look for your competitors. You can put your own competitors in. You can do an analysis on, here are my top 5 competitors. If you map the market trends to your competitors and their offering, where are the opportunities? Where are the gaps? What's not being filled at the moment? And it was interesting when I did this process in my own business. One of the really, given who I am, my history, my background, my experience, one of the conversations I had with ChatGPT that really switched this on for me was how important the need for human-centered, ethical, responsible implementation of AI was. And that was uniquely in the conversation based on my history, my background, my focus, my passions, my interests. So that's that first section. The second section is we look at what's the portfolio of services, of products, really mapping those to the market trends. And then who's your target audience? Now, that's a process that marketers are very familiar with, but some of the things that you can do with your personas, your target audience, we've done things like And this used to be weeks of work in our business. And in fact, we had an app on our website that was an avatar generator that went through, it was about a 15-minute exercise, went through asking a whole lot of questions that created an ideal customer avatar for a business. Once I realized that ChatGPT could do that in moments, that was a big aha for me. But one of the other things that we've done over the years is focus groups, surveys, really understanding the pain points, the challenges of our target audience. Once we developed the target audience using ChatGPT, we then got ChatGPT to act as a focus group researcher and conduct a focus group with our ideal customers. And it actually mimicked it was literally that moment for me just exploded everything, because I just went, that is weeks or months worth of work. Because not only did it mimic Mary, Craig, and Joe having a conversation about our products and services, talking about their role, their position, their pain points, how our products and services could actually help them address their needs. We then could take the output of that and use that in the rest of the creation of these documents. So we then have a focus group document that has got feedback and the language that our customers use. And I can't overstate the amount of time it used to take us to do that in our business.
Well, and just for people that want to go down this rabbit hole, episode number 11 with Brian Piper, building custom GPTs, personalizing an AI assistant. He works at a university, and he created an avatar of students that were thinking about going to the university, and the whole marketing department tests all their ideas up against that avatar to see whether it's going to work or not. So that's a fascinating unlock. So, okay. So I think you mentioned 6 out of the 10.
And
so
if
far.
I can add another fun example of that, we've done things, particularly in the not-for-profit sector, where we've created an AI board member avatar, and they run board papers and ideas through this highly trained, highly aligned. So before they ever send the board reports off to the actual board, they run it past this AI. I mean, there's so many ways that you can use this, but that was one of the big unlocks for me, was actually getting it to mimic your personas. And you can see, I'm sure, for those marketers that are listening, where this is going around how you can then align everything else to that. So that's that middle part, is really around the products, the services. But this iterative stacking means that when we're working on the personas, we want to feed in the market trends, the competitors, the products and services. So you're actually layering in all of the documents as you go. And that's when it starts to get really exciting, because then the next segment is around a business plan and a financial plan. And so instead of just doing your business plan for 2025 or whichever year you're in, if you're listening to this in the future, you can create your business plan and your KPIs and your targets all based on market trends aligned to your target audience, aligned to your business model and the industry that you're in, aligned to you as a business owner if you're a solopreneur. So everything that we do from here on in is referencing those previous documents. So that's kind of the foundation work that most marketers do. And then we get into the last part, which is mapping the customer journey. And again, that would take us weeks sometimes to do with larger clients, mapping out a customer journey, looking at all the touch points. And then we do the content strategy. So what type of content? And what's really important, if you've identified in document 1 that you're never going to do dancing TikTok videos, well, that's going to carry all the way through. And you won't have ChatGPT suggesting that you do dancing TikTok videos at the end, because it already knows how you want to approach your business.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you can create lots of these foundation documents, which could be in a Google Doc, You could create PDFs out of them, or I would imagine you could even copy and paste some of this stuff depending on what model you're using, right? Like Claude, for example, allows you to copy and paste or upload PDFs. In the case of ChatGPT, we're going to get into this a little bit, but having these documents is the key to everything, right? Like it's going to take a little bit of time to make these documents, but once these documents are made, they can all kind of interactively work together. So that's, I think, my next question is like, now let's assume people are tracking with this and they've created a few of these maybe to begin with. How do they ultimately use these documents to ultimately create this dream team?
So just a couple of things on what you've just said. You definitely want to save them either as Google Docs, or you can save them as text files. But we have found that text files and Google Docs or Word docs work better than PDFs. That's just
Okay.
a little
Good to know.
trick, because you're not cutting and pasting this information ever into places. We're going to use these foundation documents in the back end of a custom GPT so that it's referencing these documents.
Okay.
And the beauty about that is that you can switch these documents out over time. So as your business strategy changes, or you introduce a new product, or you have a new target audience, you can then switch those pages out, or those documents out in the back end of the GPTs. But just a couple of other, so that customer focus group is one example, but we, during that process, usually run a couple of different activities, I guess, that are strength tests. So you could, if we take it from the viewpoint of a marketer who's listening to this podcast, you could go to ChatGPT and say, I want you to act as a McKinsey level consultant and tell me which models or frameworks you use to develop a marketing strategy. And ChatGPT is going to give you those models. And you can then feed these documents into those models. So you can do a blue sky thinking process. You can run a business canvas. You can do all sorts of things where you're testing these. So, for example, I do a blue sky thinking process using my foundation documents quite often. And it'll suggest 5 things like create a hologram of yourself to turn up to workshops. And then I say, you know what, those 3 out of those 5 are not going to work for my business. So what else could you suggest? And you can say, be quirky, think out of the box. What else can you suggest to me?
Okay. I still, I'm a little fuzzy on on the document side of things. So we've got a document we can export out of Microsoft Word or out of Google Docs as a text file or as a Word doc, right? So let's just say we're exporting it as a Word doc. Help me understand, like we've got all these different documents. And maybe this is something because I've never made a custom GPT. I've only used Claude projects. So help everybody understand, like, what do they do with these documents? Are they just uploading them into a thread that they're having with ChatGPT, or is there something more going on here technically behind the scenes?
Sure. So custom GPTs are these little assistants that are trained to do a specific task, are trained on a particular product, or maybe to speak to a particular audience. And so what we do is when we create these, and they're very simple to create. Anyone that's out there saying that custom GPTs are complicated, they're very simple to create. And I'll give you a couple of tips around that shortly. But when you create the custom GPTs, there's a section in there called knowledge files.
Okay.
And in those knowledge files, that's where we're going to upload these documents. And then in the instructions, so let's say, I'll just use an example. Let's say you've got a Facebook group, custom GPT. Its sole purpose is to create content for your Facebook group. Now, if you just ask ChatGPT, create me some posts for my Facebook group about AI, it's going to give you some fairly generic posts. If you upload these foundation documents that are about your target audience, the market trends, your content strategy, and potentially what your goals are for your business that year, what the custom GPT can do is map your audience against the customer journey in the context of your business plan and your KPIs for that group. And then you've got a custom GPT that when you go into ChatGPT, instead of just having a normal chat, you go into your custom GPT. And then when you press the button that says create me 5 Facebook posts, it's drawing all of that information in. And what it produces is so far removed from just an average ChatGPT chat that's where you really start to see alignment. And I think that's the word that everyone needs to keep thinking about, is it's how are we aligning AI or aligning ChatGPT to us as a business owner, our business, and our audience.
Okay, so I think the dots have started connecting in the minds of lots of people. And what I'm hearing you say is you go and you create a custom GPT, it's going to ask you to give it source material, and you're going to upload pretty much all of these documents, right? These foundation documents. It does, I mean, or whatever ones that are most relevant, right? And then basically what happens next? Like, help us understand, like, what other, we've got these documents in this custom GPT, and you advise, you have a bunch of them, it sounds like one, for example, just for Facebook group posts. So like what else do we need to understand about these custom GPTs?
Well, in terms of determining which ones you need, that's where I would be uploading that AI audit from the beginning about all your tasks. And I would upload your business document and maybe your products and services. And you would ask ChatGPT, if I was to create a team of 5, 10, whatever number you want, you don't want hundreds of them, but if I was to create a team of custom GPTs, given everything you know about me, what GPTs would you suggest that I create? So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And ChatGPT will go, you know what, Kate? You run a Facebook group, and how you post in your Facebook group is different to how you post on LinkedIn. So I think we're going to give you 2 separate ones here.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that's important is, in our coaching program, we have micro businesses sometimes that are literally one person. They've got nothing else going that is in their business other than themselves. They might not want a Facebook GPT, a LinkedIn GPT, a blog writing GPT, a lead magnet GPT. They might want a marketing GPT. Because
or
they
a content marketing GPT, maybe, right?
That's right. That's right. So they might chunk up, if you like, and look at kind of a more of an overarching one. Larger businesses, absolutely, you want more tailored GPTs. So then what we do is we go into ChatGPT, you go to explore GPTs, you click on create, and there's 2 tabs there. One is called create and one is configure. Now, create, you can just have a conversation with ChatGPT and it will create it for you. So maybe the first time you do it, go and just have a chat with Chatty and tell it exactly what you want to do, and it will create it for you. Having said that, the process we've just gone through with the knowledge documents, you're way more advanced now than just the create tab. So you just go straight to the configure tab. You can upload an image that represents the custom GPT. You give it a title, you give it a description, then you've got the instructions. So there's a couple of key elements here. The instructions are critical. You want them to be simple. You don't want them to contradict each other. We have a framework that we usually use around what's the role or the position of the custom GPT. So you're an advanced marketer, you're a focus group facilitator. So you give it the role, or you're a Facebook marketer. You give it the role, then you give it the task. So what's its purpose? Why does it exist? And then the instructions of how it behaves. So the tone that you might want to use, when I ask for you to create a marketing strategy, I want you to outline the KPIs. I want you to put them in a spreadsheet. So you're actually giving the instructions of how you want it to behave. And I'll come back to the custom instructions in a minute. And then the next section is the knowledge files. And that's where we upload any documents that might be relevant to the task, the product that that GPT is representing.
I love it. So you said you were going to come back to something. What was it?
Yes. So one of my favorite ways, and I do this a bit differently now because I've been doing it for a long time, but one of my favorite ways to do this early on, and this is a major unlock for marketers in particular, if you're having an amazing conversation with ChatGPT, and I'm sure we can all remember those moments where it's like, oh, we've nailed it. Now we've got the formula, or you've really done exactly what I've asked you to do. At that point, you can literally in that same chat say, hey, Chatty, I want to capture everything that we've just done here, and I want you to write me a set of custom instructions for a custom GPT. And what ChatGPT is going to do is capture what you've talked about in a set of instructions that you can literally cut and paste across into your custom GPT.
I love that. And I've tried that, and that's amazing because sometimes you're like, oh, I got this thread and it's beautiful. Right. And, but eventually they don't get very smart because they lose some of their memory. Right. And that's where, is there a specific way we need to word that to get what we want out of it? Is what's your, or is it, can you just be very simple and just say, hey, I want to create a custom GPT. Would you write me an instruction set? Is it that simple?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bit more of a detailed prompt because we have a prompt structure that we use, but you could apply any of the prompt structures that all of your guests, there's so many prompt structure frameworks at the moment. We've created a really simple one, which is the SNAP formula. So set the role, name the task, add the context, and then your preferred format. So it's just 4 quick steps that the instructions could follow. And then, but ChatGPT knows what to do, though, in terms of creating instructions.
Well, and I would imagine it might even know what the snap method is, even if you created it. So someone could ask it, hey, do you know the snap method of creating a prompt? And if it does, tell me what it is. And then boom, all of a sudden it's like crazy. So, all right. So what I love about this is we've done a lot of groundwork, and we've gotten to something really exciting now, which is we can basically create as many of these custom GPTs as we want. They can be private or public, is my understanding, based on everything I've heard. If you have Teams accounts, you can share them between different staff members, which is even more exciting. And we can create all sorts of different quote unquote virtual team members now that will allow us all of a sudden to do very specific tasks. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give everybody a little, the first one you want to create is an advisory board GPT for your business. Okay. And I love this process. So I had a conversation with ChatGPT and I said, right, these are the main functions of my business. I'm a consultant. I'm a course creator. I'm a content creator. These are the things that I need to do in my business. Who are the leading experts in the world on these areas? And Chatty will just lay it out for you, course creation, Amy Porterfield, Pat Flynn, it'll outline all of the experts that are in that space. And then what I did was created an advisory board.
Oh, like so a virtual Amy Porterfield?
I might have a Michael Stelzner in my advisory board from a social media perspective, Ryan Levesque on funnels and Fei Li from Stanford on human-centered AI. So I create an advisory board that is a custom GPT, and then every piece of content that I create, I can run it through the advisory board. Every idea I have for my business, I can run it through the advisory board. And Michael might say, Kate, your social media strategy here is not strong enough. Or, Ryan Levesque might say, why don't you develop a quiz funnel? It would work really well for this one of your customers. And so if you've actually brought in those foundation documents, you've then got the world expert leaders providing advice based on just your context.
I love that. So, it's like having a mastermind without having to pay for access to all these people, right?
Totally. And just so you know, I have paid a lot of money to all of those people in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
I'm not just ripping them off.
No,
Um,
no, I love it. Kate, this has been absolutely fascinating. If people want to discover more about you and your business, first, what's the preferred social platform for them to connect with you? And secondly, if they want to work with you, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, look, I'm mostly on LinkedIn now. I do have a Facebook group called the AI Success Lab, but you can find me on LinkedIn as Kate vanderVoort. And we do have a pretty cool AI success strategy process that is totally tailored to you, your role, and your industry. So that sits at aisuccessstrategy.com. You can go and find that there.
Kate, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Thanks, Michael. It's been great being here.